Let's take a look quickly at those three domains: cognitive, emotional, physical. The cognitive domain is probably the most well-known domain, right? We have a lot of research in that area. We know a lot about foundational skill development, vocabulary development, comprehension development. There are a lot of programs out there that support that area. The emotional domain has become very, very popular, especially, in terms of SEL, grit, self-improvement belief, self-efficacy, interest, and so forth. But the physical domain is the one that really hasn't received the attention it actually deserves. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more today. Because reading is a highly visual task. And if we're actually looking at, and when I say actually it's a highly visual task, it really means 30% of the cortex is dedicated to visual processing. That's a lot more than the 8% that are dedicated towards touch or 3% for hearing. And when we're talking about vision in regard to reading, we really have to look at 3 levels of vision. The first level is, can we actually see clearly? The second level is, are our eyes working efficiently? How efficiently are we navigating lines of print? Are our eyes working as a team? Can they move simultaneously and maintain clarity? And then the third level is, can we actually make sense of what we're looking at? Do we understand what we're looking at? Do we even remember what we saw? Okay, let's take a look at that. When we are reading, reading involves many, many learned visual skills. They all have to work in a coordinated fashion. So for example, we read a piece of text. The text gets into our brain via our eyes. We use various skills to accomplish that. We create a mental image. We involve our memory, our visual capabilities to connect background knowledge, and we create meaning. Now, what happens if something is going wrong here in that middle phase? Let me explain that with an example. Here we have a very simple sentence. Hundreds of species of insects and small animals make their homes in these massive home trees. Simple sentence. So what you see above here are little arrows, right? Gray arrows to the right, orange arrows to the left. What they're basically symbolizing is how this person read or navigated this sentence, going forward, backwards. So in order to take in information, our eyes have to be still. So, and you see it's a lot of back and forth, right? So it's actually reading, if you slow it down, reading is a very choppy process. But because everything happens so fast, it looks like it's smooth. But actually it's a lot of stop and go, stop and go. And the more backwards, forwards movements, backwards movements you have, the more your brain will have to clean up the data input. And then hopefully the brain also puts together the correct word pieces. And then hopefully the word pieces go into the right sequence within the sentence so that by the time you get to the end of the sentence, hopefully you still remember what the beginning was about. So let's see what happened in this case with all that visual activity that went on. So we end up with a sentence that says, under red special insects, under species are small animals. These home make small animals, make home there in these massive home trees. So now, if we ask this student a question about this sentence, most likely he will not be able to answer correctly. So now, does that mean that the student doesn't comprehend? Or does it mean that the information didn't enter the brain in an organized fashion so that the student actually could process the information correctly? So again, if the student cannot answer the question, the student will ultimately start to believe he or she is less intelligent. And because of that, we again are ending up with an issue that's not just an academic issue, but it's also become an emotional issue.